Welcome to this episode of the Brush and Soap and Blade Podcast, where we look forward to shaving every day. Welcome to episode 138 of the podcast. My name is Rick DeWeese. I'll be your host this week. Okay, we're going to start off with a letter from Laura. Then we jump into the Wednesday shave of the day. I don't normally do Wednesday, but I did this time. First go around with Spitfire shaving soap. Yes, I have been trying something this week, and yeah, good stuff. Hey, shine your shoes. I'll link to an Art of Manliness blog and video that talks about that very thing. Friday shave of the day, into the cockpit. What do I normally do on Memorial Day weekend? I'll tell you all about that. The Sunday shaving, the Sunday shave of the day, or as my wife said, the flying ashtray. Yeah, I'll have to tell you about that one too. The Guide to Honing, Part 1, over there on Sharpologist. Good stuff there. Another huge blog post there, written up by Joe about honing, and I'll tell you about that. Tuesday's shave of the day. Sometimes things just go better than expected, and I'll tell you about something that happened this weekend, at least to me, where that's exactly what happened. Finish up with Wednesday's shave of the day, and then I go on a little bit of a rant about, well, Memorial Day, and what people should do, and unfortunately don't, with their flags. And in fact, not only do I see this on people's flags, I see this on state flags and national flags and flags at the post office and flags at businesses, and it just... So you're in for another epic rant. Anyhow, let's go ahead and put on the leather jacket and climb up into the cockpit here, fire up the engines, strap in, and take off, get this show going. So I got an interesting email from Laura. Hi, Rick. I'm a 40-hour per week, 8 to 5 type of person that happily found your podcast this week. I'm starting as far back as I can, and I'm working my way to current episodes. I'm really enjoying all of your tips and recommendations to the point where I've actually found myself taking notes. So, if you haven't already guessed by the email address, I'm a soap maker, a soap artisan, if you will. I got to the part in episode 50 where you talk about the soap makers that don't use their own products, and I had to laugh at myself. About a year ago, I started making soap, and I was intrigued by a new shaving cream that I bought for my boyfriend, Cremo. P.S. I should probably tell you that I am a woman, and yes, I am a wet shaver. Anyway, there I was, making hard bars of soap and deciding to try my hand at my first shaving soap. I didn't know how Cremo had made their product, but I knew that if I was going to make a shaving soap, it needed to be round to match the natural motion of the bar of soap, and so I molded it into a round shape. I anxiously waited for my shaving soap to cure so that I could try it out to see how wonderful it is. So, a couple of weeks later, I tried it out for myself, and I hated it. It was so foamy and soapy that it just felt like any other bar of soap out there. And so, I changed my process. Today, I make shaving soap and shaving cream that is more along the lines of Cremo, and my boyfriend and I couldn't be happier with it. I remember the first day that I shaved my legs with my new shaving soap, and I remember feeling like my life had been changed forever. No exaggeration. I, too, would love to share the message of wonderful feeling that a good soap can make. Anyway, I can't wait to catch up on your current episodes. Maybe we can chat sometime. Take care and happy shaving, Laura. Okay, first off, all right, if you really want to go back that far, okay. Like I've said many times, I'm not responsible for the therapy. Anyhow, glad you found us. Glad you found Wet Shaving Podcast. There's other podcasts out there. Wet Shaving News is one of them. The Wet Shaving Roundtable. There's several others that I can't remember off the top of my head right now, but there's lots out there. I suggest you go and check them all out for ideas, because I'm not the only one out here that has a clue, and sometimes I wonder if I do. Anyhow, yeah. So back in episode 50, and that has been a while. So back in episode 50, yeah, that was a good episode. The Obliviata. And they're still running around today. Anyhow, back in episode 50, one of the things that I did is I tried a new soap. And if I recall correctly, it was a soap that I had gotten, well, at the mall. A guy was selling, like, regular bar soaps, and he just happened to have one there that was, well, shaving soap. And so I talked to him for a little bit, and I went ahead and got it, and went on home and proceeded to try it. And it was, well, pretty miserable. And I remember kind of ranting just a bit on the fact that, people would find out that this stuff doesn't work if they just use it themselves and not foist it on the public. So, yeah. Good stuff. Anyhow, so Cremo. Okay, Cremo is all Glide. If you've never used Cremo, Cremo is it's a cream, comes in a tube. It's made out of California, I think, but they make a couple of scents. They make one an orange scent and one a rose scent, one for men, one for women. If I remember what I read correctly, the reason that they use those two scents is that they're powerful enough to cover up the smell of the actual shaving cream itself, because it's, well, not real pleasant. And so that was interesting when I found that out. But hey, it works, so that's good. Now, it is just all Glide all the time. I mean, especially if you just touch it with a little bit of water or put a little bit of water on your razor. It's Glide City. So it's not a bad product. The only problem I've ever had with it is if I left it in under the sink in the tube for about 6 months and went to use it, and it had separated, and the smells just, yeah, it was not good. But if you get it fresh and actually use the stuff, you'll probably be real happy with it. If that's the kind of stuff you like. So anyhow, first off, Laura, congratulations. Thank you for finding my podcast. Thank you more for listening to the silly stuff. But great job in going out there and making soap and actually trying your own soap and realizing that, hey, it needs a little work. There's nothing wrong with that, and kudos to you for actually taking that step and coming to that revelation and changing something in order to make it better. So, yeah, good stuff. I'm glad you're able to share it, and when you get things going, let me know. Again, thank you very much for the letter. All right, well, it's Wednesday morning. Yeah, Wednesday morning. Beautiful, beautiful morning out here this morning. And normally, this would be the last morning before a podcast, and I would do the podcast tonight. However, I did the podcast last night, so I could go and celebrate this evening. I have a young man who is graduating, and I need to be there for that. So, anyhow, with that said, since I'm sort of starting my week off a day early, if you will, I went ahead and used the soap that caused me, quite honestly, to contact Maggards and to order from Maggards last week. Specifically, I was looking for the new British soap from Phoenix and Bow called Spitfire. Now, when I originally saw this soap out there on Facebook, on one of the English wet shaving pages, I was intrigued, and immediately I contacted them and said, "Do you have a distributor in the U.S.?" And they said, "Why, yes, we do. It's Maggards." All right, fair enough. So I contacted Maggards, and I said, "Okay, do you have this stuff?" And they said, "Not yet. It's coming." Okay. Can I go ahead and order some now? No. Can I get a notification when it arrives? No. Okay, I understand I'm a nobody. I get that. I know that I'm just a guy doing a podcast, but if you have a customer that's willing to pay for a product before it even hits the shelves, yeah, you would think you would be able to do that. I'm just saying. It seems a little silly to me. But there you go. You got to, every now and then, you sacrifice the goal for the process. Yeah, just like that. No, we have a process. We have to have it in our system. We have to have a SKU. We have to have, all this stuff. We have to do this. The goal is selling stuff. This is what I was talking about. Sometimes you let the process get in the way of the goal. Anyhow. So I dutifully did like probably everybody else in the wet shaving world does is, when I find out that something is coming to someone, I go ahead and proceed to keep an eye on the web page and validate and verify that it has or has not arrived yet. And one day I was doing that, and lo and behold, there it was. Now, of course, it was hidden. It wasn't in new products or anything like that, because that would be too easy. So, I ended up having to search each time for Spitfire, and finally it popped up, and it was not in a category that I thought it would be on. In fact, it wasn't even on the web page. Jeez. Anyhow, okay, with all that being said, don't get me wrong. I like Maggards. They've got really good service, so I'm not trying to beat up on them, but there are some improvements that could be made here. Anyhow, so I went ahead and soaked up a boar brush this morning, and I couldn't, of course, soak up my 1305 because once again the nut has popped off, and it's just really it's just aggravating. Anyhow, soaked it up and bloomed the soap. Took a shower, jumped out of the shower, dried off a little bit, and proceeded to face lather with the soap. Now, the first go around, just a bit of a hurry, one of those things. But I wanted to get an initial impression. An initial impression was that it is a little bit more juniper than it is leather, although the leather is in there. And so Spitfire, the thing that intrigued me about it is that it was leather, juniper, and tobacco. Okay. Now, I got a bit of the juniper right off the bat, and just a touch of leather and a little bit less tobacco. Okay, fair enough. It's just, I get where they're going with that, and I get the balance that they're trying to get. So, okay, it was pleasant enough. Now, of course, the first pass, the face lather was just a touch thin, so didn't really give it credit. And that's my fault. It's nothing to do with the soap at all. The second and third passes were very thick and luxurious, and I really, really enjoyed them. Again, good scent profile overall, more juniper than anything else, which is fine because I like that. The thing that, I've walked out of the house with no aftershave or anything, and there is no residual. There is no residual smell. There is no residual odor. You don't get wafts of it over the course of the day. So it's pleasant enough, and it works well, and, so far initial impressions are, pretty reasonable. Used my, my Valet Auto Strop with feather stainless blade in it, just because it is a known quantity, and, it is known for being both easy to use, sharp, and providing a good and close shave. So no issues or complications there, which, when you're testing out a soap, the last thing you need is, well, issues and complications. So all is good, and the first go-around with Spitfire is, in the record books, and not too shabby. So I ran across the ultimate guide to shining your shoes. And where did I find this treasure? None other than The Art of Manliness. So I'll go ahead and link to that in the show notes. So there's a YouTube video that The Art of Manliness has put out, how to shine your shoes. In a nutshell, get all your stuff together, a tin of polish, a shoe shine brush, like a polish brush, either usually made out of horsehair, and a shining cloth. The first thing, clean your shoes. Yeah, imagine that. Get all the grime off of there so you don't buff it in. Apply the polish. Now, some people in this video, they do it with a rag. I always do it with my fingers, and one of the reasons that I do it with my fingers is, as they go on to say, when you brush your shoes, the brushing motion actually heats up the wax and causes the shine. Well, I find that when I apply the shoe polish with my finger and rub it in small circular areas, the heat generated from my finger helps get the polish in. Now, I've got a pair of shoes that I wear. They're a pair of black shoes. They're not too bad. They're not perfect, but they're not too bad. And what I oftentimes do is shine these things up before I go to Scouts. Because one of the things that I would like to impress upon these young men is that having a pair of well-shined shoes is, well, good and easy to do, and in fact something that they ought to do. And so I oftentimes shine them up. Now, when I first got these shoes, I think I ended up polishing them, or at least applying polish, about a half a dozen times before I filled in all the pores, and they actually looked like they were taking a shine instead of looking like they were just, well, shiny, if that's a word, I guess. When they take a shine, it looks like the whole surface is shined instead of just, the top parts, and the pores are still opened up and, not with nothing in them. And so for me, I had to apply wax, and again, very thin coats, but multiple thin coats, probably about 6 of them. So they also say give some extra love to the toe and the heel. Yeah. First off, be gentle with your heels. Don't use your heels to kick off your shoes, as it were, because it wears them out. It wears them down. I also do the toes, especially because, well, that's where the shiny part gets to be, and I like that. And then you can sit there and keep on repeating and getting them until they're shiny like a mirror. And typically, I use a cotton cloth and a little bit of water after I brush them in small circular motion across the toe to really, really bring out the shine. Just a touch of water. It doesn't take much, but that really evens things out. Now, as a bonus, over here on The Art of Manliness, I'll link to this page here. He even has the plans for making your own shoe shine box. And yeah, that's something that's pretty handy. If you've never used a shoe shine box to prop your foot up while you're actually working on it, it does make a difference. Anyhow, thought it was good, thought I'd share. Let's talk about the shave of the day. First off, it is an absolutely gorgeous, gorgeous day. Bright blue sky as I climb into the cockpit of the mobile studio. And I'm climbing into the cockpit after having a wonderful shave with Spitfire shaving cream or soap. I'll have to look. I can't remember if it's cream or soap. It's soft. It's not as hard as some soaps, but the reason I say that is because I went ahead and lathered up the old Spitfire this morning without blooming it. and actually got an excellent loading of the brush. Didn't have any issues at all. In fact, it was just as good, if not better, as when I bloomed it. More scents. I think the blooming kind of washed out some of the scent profile. So a little bit stronger scents this go around. And so in the tradition, the other day I went ahead and used an older razor, my Valet Auto Strop, and kind of along the lines of using classic gear of the era or pre-era, I went ahead and used my my 70-something-year-old Gillette New short comb bar handle, and got an excellent shave with that thing. Without blooming, the load that I got, and it may just be that I've gotten down into the soap a little bit, and it's a little bit softer down there, having not been exposed to oxygen for quite as long or whatever. It could be, but I got an excellent load and an excellent lather and an excellent shave, to be quite honest. Either that or else I got the water content just right. It could be me, but the key is that it was an absolutely great lather and had no issues whatsoever, and that of course was followed by a great shave and good post feel. Didn't have any issues or problems. There was still just a little bit of residual slickness, although the bar. The non-bar, the toothed composition of the Gillette New, the short comb, actually enhances any residual slickness because it does leave just a little bit of soap behind. It doesn't scrape it all off with the safety bar. So, yeah, good stuff there. Great shave. Again, no problems, no issues, no worries. And washed up and finished up with something that, well, I thought was appropriate as well. American Blend by Fine. It's kind of a culmination of the English-American alliance. And seeing as how, we're coming into the Memorial Day weekend, it struck me as something, fitting that I celebrate both, our great allied relationships with England and the English and American alliance. Fought a couple of rather significant battles and wars, and we were successful. And so anyhow, it was just one of those things. I'm off to work today. It's Friday before a Memorial Day weekend, and I don't know, it's just kind of a relaxed day. There's probably not going to be a whole lot of people on the road because most of them are probably taking a day off for Memorial Day, or they'll take Monday off. And, all in all, good stuff. Great way to start the shave, climbing into the cockpit with a little bit of Spitfire Soap. Well, this Memorial Day weekend, I did what I typically do, or at least have done for the last, I believe, 11. I don't think I've missed one. Memorial Day weekend. I go up to the university that I happen to graduate from, and they have the Scottish Games up there, and have a good time. We go and they have a mass pipe and drum field demonstration. The last couple of times they've had the Special Forces Association parachute in, and they've got this time they had some grenadiers, some Scottish grenadiers come over as honor guards, and it's a lot of fun. It is a Memorial Day remembrance. It is fun. Get to see the athletes compete in the heavy games, tossing the caber and, taking the sheaf and throwing it over the pole. And I mean, just good times, really. get some good food, listen to some good music. And they also got a British car show that is just fabulous, and really enjoy that. And all in all, really a lot of fun. The most amazing thing, I think, is to just see all the people and run into folks that you've met over the years, and all of that, and just out seeing people having fun, having a good time, having enjoying the day. It was a beautiful day, and it always has been. Every time we've had one of these, and this is the 11th year, we've had a good time. So I've posted a couple of links of the parachutists coming in, and one of the pipe and drum bands. Well, actually 3 of them marching onto the field, and just overall had a great time, and fun time was had by all. Let's talk about Sunday's shave of the day. Okay, so Sunday was a little bit different than previous days. I've been using the Phoenix and Bow Spitfire this week, which is juniper, tobacco, and leather. And so Sunday, I went ahead and used it again, but this time in the shower. Plisson brush and a fat boy with a Kai blade set at 5. Okay, so fairly known quantities with the Plisson brush and the fat boy and everything. So, I really wanted to do this in order to get a very good understanding of the rather complex scent profile of the Spitfire soap. Okay, so here are my observations. And then there was a surprise one afterwards. Okay, so when I first got in the shower and started lathering up, the first predominant note that just enveloped, basically everything was juniper. A very strong top note of juniper. Now, the thing that was interesting is that it was just juniper. It wasn't really anything else at that point. Now, I'm lathering. I'm loading the brush, and the scent that I'm getting is, like I said, 100% juniper. Now, after that, I apply the soap. And as I apply the lather to my face, the scent of juniper, disappears. And is replaced with a scent of leather and tobacco, but mild tobacco and more leather than anything. Just kind of the way it is. In that phase, it was kind of like the scent profile that would have gone well in my head anyhow would be some of the old classic English leather, because it really had a nice leather profile. And what happened was, after I put it on and shaved it off, basically I did not smell a preponderance of juniper again. After that, it was mainly leather with a little tobacco thrown in. Now, the amazing thing is, I went ahead and did a 3-pass shave. As that kind of stayed, the profile, if you will, the whole time that I was shaving with this stuff. Good smells. I mean, not a problem at all. I got out of the shower and went to do something else, and later on, I went back in the bathroom, and my wife had moved the soap out of the shower and put it on the sink. And she was standing there, and I asked her, I said, well, what do you think of this smell? And I held it up to her nose, and she took a big whiff, and she said, all I smell is an ashtray. What? It's like, okay. So I went and I stuck my nose down deep into the soap, almost touching the soap with my nose, and took a big whiff. And yes, there are remnants of an ashy smell Interesting. So maybe the tobacco is previously smoked? I don't know. But it was curious because I too, and it may have been her suggestion that that's what it smelled like, and it may in fact have been the juniper or something else. But yeah, it did to a certain extent smell just a bit like an ashtray. Now the thing is that when you backed off the nose about 6 inches or so, to me anyhow, I got the scent of leather again. And then when I, brush it or, start to load a brush, again, it's happened every time, I get an overwhelming scent of juniper. Really, really a unique soap. It's fun to play with. It really is. It's fun to play with. And I've thoroughly enjoyed it. Good lather. Holy cow, good lather. Yeah, and really good performance. Nice aftershave feel. A little bit of residual glide after you, you kind of have to work to rinse all of it off, to get rid of all of the residual glide, because there's still some slickness and glide that remains. So, touch-up strokes and things like that are not a problem. And, yeah. All in all, good stuff. But it was interesting. Juniper, leather, just a touch of tobacco, and then, of course, my wife's observation, nah, it's an ashtray. Now, just in case anybody's taking that in a negative context, my wife does not have a nose to smell hardly anything. So it's just... And it may very well be that the reason that I associated, what I smelled with what she had said was, well, because she had said it. So there you go. It was an interesting Sunday shave of the day. So off to Sharpologist, off to the Sharpologist blog page there, and he's got a new one, The Guide to Straight Razor Honing, Part 1. Okay, so the picture right off the bat gives you an idea of what this is. I mean, there's lapping films, there's multiple different kinds of stones, there's a piece of sandpaper on a 2x4. I mean, yeah, honing. Okay, so starts off with what is honing? Honing terms that you maybe have heard about. Different types of honing abrasives, wet sandpaper, lapping film, stones, etc. He's even got a handy chart to go from lapping film to grit, because lapping film is in microns and grit is not. And so there's a nice little conversion table there. Good stuff. Natural stones, different types of natural stones, the multiple different types. And I mean, this thing is long. I started reading through it and it's like, holy cow, I didn't know any of this stuff, or most of it. Maybe that's my problem. Maybe that's why I can't get anything sharp. I don't know. Anyhow, he also talks about synthetic stones, water stones, ceramic hones, diamond hones. I mean, it goes on and on. Barber hones. How to maintain and flatten your wet stone. Great stuff. Okay, and this is part 1. And, yeah, there's a lot of stuff here. This is a good post right here. And Joe, as always, did a great job, and Sharpologist has it up. So, yeah, good stuff. I'll link to it so you can start taking a look at, honing and lapping and, different varieties of stuff that you can do and how to do it. And hopefully when we get to part 2, maybe even a part 3, yeah. I'll be able to keep my stuff a little bit sharper than it is currently. And wouldn't that be a good thing? Anyhow, I'll link to it on the blog post. So today's shave of the day was another wonderful shave with the Phoenix and Bow Spitfire Soap, that juniper, tobacco, and leather smelling soap that, well, is just a tad mysterious at times, and I really, really enjoy it. Today I teamed it up with my gem Damascene with a spineless feather blade. What? Wait a minute. How'd you do that? A spineless feather blade in a single-edged razor? Haha. Well, I put a spine on it. I took an aluminum spine off of a gem single-edged blade and threw it on the feather, and it fits in the Damascene just fine. And a wonderful shave it was. You know, first off, the smell of juniper just filling the environment as I lathered it up. A little bit muted because I bloomed the soap. I found if I don't bloom the soap, the juniper smell jumps out a little bit bigger. If I do bloom the soap, it kind of washes a bit within the bloom water. So bloomed it and lathered a little bit of a leathery scent, just a touch of tobacco. Yeah, all in all, good stuff. Fine lathering soap. Didn't have any problems at all. Good performance. So far, I've been very happy with it. So anyhow, 3-pass shave, did a fine job, and in fact finished up with some fine aftershave. The American blend, because this week that has been my, well, tradition, mainly in recognition of the World War II allies, the English with their Spitfires and the Americans with their, well, just tenacity. Although I must say, after having been to England and walking amongst the streets and, you know, the buildings, and in fact having on one opportunity an older gentleman walked with me for about 1.5 miles describing everything that had happened during World War II in his youth, describing the buildings that were gone, describing how the rubble filled the street, and how they moved water around with fire hoses so that people could have something to cook with and to clean with and to drink. Yeah, well, maybe we did have tenacity, but so did they. Holy cow. Anyhow, it has been fitting, at least in my head, to celebrate that relationship this week. And so it has been a Spitfire and fine American blend aftershave kind of week. So all in all, really, really good stuff. Well, I had a bit of fun yesterday. Did something, and it's enjoyable when something goes so much smoother than what you envisioned, anticipated, or in fact expected. Okay, so my next door neighbor had a bunch of trees cut down, and I told the guy that was cutting the trees that I wouldn't mind some of the wood if it was in relatively decent shape, if nothing else, for the scouts, because, well, you know, we burn things. And it's nice to have some firewood and things like that where the scouts can have some and practice and burn it and do all that stuff. It gives him a benefit because he doesn't have to haul it off, so not too shabby there. Anyhow, the thing that I was kind of anticipating with just a touch of dread, quite honestly, was getting my chainsaw back up and running. Now, just for the record, I've got a very nice Husqvarna, and it is a 16-inch chainsaw and does a fabulous job. Now, the chain that I had on it was absolutely worn out and needed to be replaced. And I hadn't started that chainsaw in probably a year to a year and a half. It had been easily that long. Now, the last time that I ran it dry and, got everything out of it and well, there you go. So I went, got a new chain, put a new chain on the thing. Turned out that the spare chain that I had was for my other chainsaw. I've got a little, I want to say it's a little Poland, but it was my first chainsaw. It was actually given to me, and it does not run very well. I mean, just the truth be told, it does not run very well. It's okay, but it does not run very well. Anyhow, my Husky, when it runs, has absolutely no problems and no issues. So I put the new chain on it, filled it up with bar oil, tighten the chain and all that. Filled it up with, I had to mix up some new two-stroke gasoline and oil. Mixed that up, threw it in, and proceeded to go through the starting ritual. And that little thing fired up after the fourth pull on the cord. I was astounded. I was absolutely astounded. I had thought that I would be pulling the plug and, cleaning it and airing things out, maybe breaking apart the carburetor and cleaning all that out. And it's just, no. Fourth pull, fired right up, never missed a lick, didn't hiccup or cough, just ran. Wow. Now that's that's a tool. There are times when you run into things like that and you just kind of stand there, shake your head and go, wow, that's just, don't know what they've done here, don't know what I've done that, I'm granted running it dry probably, till it finally dies out is probably a real good way of making sure that there's no gunk and goo and stuff like that left in it. Yeah, I get that, but still. Most people that have chainsaws, if they sit around for a year and a half, first thing that they do is take them in and go, okay, I know this is going to be bad, so hook me up. And I did not have to do that. Was able to get the logs because, I told him, I said, bring over some logs that are about firewood length. Okay, so he brought some, and then he brought some that are like double and some that are triple and one or two chunks that were about 4 times the length of standard firewood. It's like, yeah, okay, I've just become a dumping ground. But that's okay. I have a chainsaw. I can fix that. And fix it I did. And so got the wood all cut up. Now the next evolution is to get some cinder blocks and some other things so that I can get that wood up off the ground to let it air dry a little bit. And come this fall perhaps, or maybe in the spring, I will split it and let it continue to dry, and we'll have some good seasoned firewood here in a year or so. And yeah, I like that. That's works out well for everybody. But I just wanted to say that when you're playing around with sharp things, it doesn't have to be just razors. It can also be tools, whether that be a scythe or whether that be a handsaw or in fact a chainsaw. It's all good. Cutting is cutting, and being able to have a fine edge on a cutting instrument to make it that much more useful is, well, just that much more useful. Anyhow, all in all, good stuff. Had a great time. Got a little exercise too. But more importantly, found out that every now and then things really, really go better than you ever anticipated. Well, for this Memorial Day week, it has been an absolute pleasure. The timing couldn't have been more perfect to play with, experience, and celebrate Spitfire Shaving Soap. Yeah. So, Phoenix and Bo, out of England, making Spitfire, juniper, leather, and tobacco. Great scent. Glad I bought it. I mean, at the end of the day, yeah, glad I bought it. There are some soaps, that you go, okay, is this worth my pennies? And some of them you go, okay, it's not a total waste. It's it's a soap. It works, but... Okay, this is not one of those. This is one of those where you step back and go, yeah, I'm glad I've got this in the den. It's, it's good stuff. Anyhow, finished up today with Samog Owners Club brush and Phoenix and Bo Spitfire. Great labeling, too. Holy cow. That's the other thing that I really, really like about the soap. It's got a fantastic label. Do enjoy that. Anyhow, the The razor today was none other than a 1940s Super Speed Gillette with a Kai blade in it. And 3 passes, just a little bit of touch-up on the jaw line, and all is good. Walk out with a great shave. Did not put on an aftershave today, but that's okay. Walked out the door with an absolutely great shave, and feeling pretty good about it all. You know, been having fun this week, taking pictures of the various shave setups and incorporating everything that is there, throwing them on Instagram and Twitter and things. Just have a lot of fun with that. Today, the picture that I threw in there for today also has a German style lighter from the World War II era. We had the Zippo lighter, and the other guys had things like these. So threw that in there just because that's what I carry around in my pocket all day long, because it's a little bit smaller and lighter than a Zippo, and seals up a little better, so it holds the fluid just a touch longer. Anyhow, it's been a lot of fun. I have enjoyed it. It has kind of focused me into the, I call it 1940s, 1950s time frame, maybe a little bit before for some of them, but tried to think about, what would the soldiers and sailors of the era of the Spitfire use for their daily shave, whether that be straight razors or an old single-edged razor that may have been handed down or something like that. It's just been fun, and at the end of the day, that's what this hobby is supposed to be. It's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be, just exactly that. Trips down lanes that you hadn't anticipated. Yep. Well, anyhow, that was the shave of the day. Okay, let's get started with this thing because, it's Tuesday. We have survived Memorial Day, and it was a beautiful Memorial Day. It was an absolutely gorgeous day, at least where I am. A little bit of rain in the afternoon, thunderstorms and things like that, but for the most part, yeah, it was gorgeous. And did my traditional, which is I typically go into work in the morning on Memorial Day only because in the past everybody was sleeping anyhow. I was the only one up, so yeah. And I have a hard time most times sleeping in. I usually wake up at my normal time regardless, and so that's what I did. Went into work. However, I did get back around noon, so I could raise my flag to full mast after putting it at half mast in the morning. And then I routinely go out, and on Memorial Day at noon, I'll take my old Boy Scout bugle and play taps over the pond. And it's just a good remembrance, a good observance of Memorial Day of those that have fallen. So this brings me to something that just really kind of ticks me off. Okay, so now granted, I'm a Boy Scout, and granted, I know about these kind of things, but dang it, back in my day, this kind of stuff was taught in school, and apparently it's not anymore, at least if you look around and actually see how people observe things. Okay, so if you ever care to have some, maybe not light reading, but at least some historical reading, you can go onto the web or you can go to the library and you can get this nice little document called the U.S. Flag Code. Okay? In the U.S. Flag Code, it states that on Memorial Day, the flag should be put at half-mast until noon, in remembrance of those that died. Pretty simple concept. When somebody important dies, you lower the flag to half-mast. If somebody important dies in your state flag's lower. If somebody important in the federal government, you lowered the flag to half-mast in order to celebrate. Typically, you do it for a number of days. On Memorial Day, you are supposed to lower the flag to half-mast until noon. So call it from 6 to noon. 6 hours. 6 hours of remembrance of hundreds of thousands of people who have died, not because they necessarily believed in the fight or believed in what the politicians stated or anything like that. I'm not even going to get into that. What I'm going to tell you is they stepped up at a time when their country called. They didn't shirk. They didn't hide. They didn't run away. They stepped up when their country called. And unfortunately for them, when their country called, it was a life sentence. But they stepped up and did it anyhow. And for that kind of sacrifice, we can't go out of our way to lower the flags to half-mast for 6 flippin' hours for the hundreds of thousands of men and women from all parts of this great nation in order to observe and remember that they died for us. Now, some people say they died for our freedoms. Some people will debate that. Okay, what I will tell you is that the very fact that they came and stepped up when they were called means that we have, as a nation, a standing army that allows us to defend ourselves in times of need or whatever in other times. The point is that without that standing army, everybody and their mother would be invading us militarily just because there was nothing to stop them. You know, this country is full of resources. People like resources. Countries like resources. Oftentimes, people will take resources from people that don't or can't defend themselves. I hate to say this, that's what we did with America. That's how we gained the country. We fought battles against people who were less capable of defending themselves in order to gain their resources. Now, you can say that that's good or bad. It doesn't matter at this point. We're here. It's over. It's done with. I wasn't there that did it, and I'm not going to apologize for my ancestors. I'm sorry. Now, the key is, though, is that we have a standing army, a standing military, because people are willing to step up and have been willing to step up for generations. And the very fact that we as a country are incapable of teaching our children and maintaining our own observance of Memorial Day, where we lower the flag to half-mast for 6 measly hours for the hundreds and thousands of people who have died for us to be here, to breathe this air and to have this right, just astounds me. Okay. So with all that said, if you have an opportunity, check out the U.S. flag code. You can find it on the internet. Just type in U.S. flag code, and you'll come up to a nice document that tells you everything as far as the observance of things like the Pledge of Allegiance and the Star-Spangled Banner, and how you're supposed to act, and the fact that you are supposed to stand there with your hand over your heart during the Star-Spangled Banner. And the fact that the flag is supposed to be at half-mast until noon on Memorial Day. We need to teach our kids this. We need to teach our children why. We need to teach our children the value of people, regardless of whether you agree with what the politicians send them to do. You need to teach your children, our country, the value of people being willing to step up to the call. It's important. We only observe it one time a year. Let's do it right. Well, that concludes this episode of the Brush and Soap and Blade Podcast. I hope you enjoyed listening to it as much as I enjoyed making it. If you have some suggestions or would like a topic covered, drop me an email at BrushnSoapnBlade@gmail.com or give me a call at 864-372-6234 or contact us on Twitter at BrushnBlade. You can also visit us at our blog, BrushnSoapnBlade.wordpress.com. As always, we're available on iTunes and Stitcher.